Hey, oh, hi. Glad you're here. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. I love all your comments. You can put comments in the side chat box, but I will close the chat box afterwards. If this video comes out okay with the audio and everything, I will go ahead and uh, publish it. But right now, it's just live streaming public, but um, I do have the option of live streaming private, but I prefer to do it public so people can jump in the chat box. I will be looking at the chat box if you have questions, and or if you just want to chat amongst yourselves, go right ahead. But anyway, so the National Geographic just ran this article, and anybody that's taken geology or earth science is probably aware that the Earth has a magnetic pole, and that there is it's spinning on its axis, and there's plate tectonics, and it's spinning around, and you use a compass to find north and south, and there's a south pole and a north pole. Well, geologists have also discovered vast changes where the poles flipped. And so the scientists have been studying the Earth on a regular basis, and they just discovered that the magnetic pole. There's one in Canada in the north. By the way, I put the link to the article here, and I'm summarizing it for you, and then I'm going to add a little to it. So basically, there's the rock cycle, the water cycle, and the carbon and all these different chemicals. But you know that there's an interaction. The Earth is dynamic, and it can be fragile because humanity can be fragile in response to the Earth. Excuse me. If there's a pole shift, which is done in the past. They've examined the magnetic core. They take the iron fillings in the core, and they measure those, and they find out. They found that it's flipped in the past. So it's gone on the side, and the North Pole and the South Pole, where it's freezing cold away from the sun, now is the East and the West, and the East and the West are now down in the North and the South. In other words, it flips around. It's a ball spinning, and it flips around. What does that mean for climate change? What does that mean for the Earth? What does that mean for you, where you're sitting on the Earth? Now, I'm not saying that it's flipped, because it hasn't flipped, but it's been acting really strange, okay? So this explains about the magnetic north, and it explains that they've been measuring it. So okay, wait, let me get back. I've got to show you where it says how much it's actually been shifting. So let's see. It says Nature News first reported earlier this year. So the World Magnetic Model update was officially released on Monday, and magnetic north can again be precisely located. So they adjust because it is moving. But this is the thing. It is moving at breakneck speed. Okay? So if you just read the first paragraphs, it says magnetic north has never been still, which is true. Pilots have to adjust for, it's just like, so in the last 100 years or so, the direction in which our compasses steadfastly point has lumbered ever northward, driven by the Earth's churning liquid outer core. Now, the liquid outer core is kind of like the, well, I'm not sure if they're talking about magma or if they're talking about water. I'd have to look into that, because the rock cycle is where the rocks melt, and they're like magma. The oceans are mostly basaltic, and then the Earth's crust is mostly granite. So you have two types of rocks. and they're very hard rocks. But anyway, so 1,800 miles beneath the surface. So that's supposedly affecting well, they know they've seen it's affecting the magnetic north. So in recent years, scientists noticed something unusual. The magnetic north's routine plot has shifted into high gear, sending it galloping across the northern hemisphere, and no one can entirely explain why. The changes have been so large that scientists begin working on an emergency update for the world magnetic model, the mathematical system that lays the foundations for navigation from cell phones to ships, commercial airliners, satellites. I'm adding some extra stuff in here, by the way. And it reported this earlier this year. So basically, it's moving at breakneck speed. Now, as I explained to you earlier, the poles have shifted in the past, and actually, it looks here like they have other articles linked in that explain it. And so the wandering pole, they explain about this magnetic motion. And they also use mathematics. Mathematics is true, measuring, and they can see that it is shifting. Now, what happens if it shifts? It's going to cause huge climate change. Huge climate change. You could be now in a part of the world that is temperate. And then now you're in the polar ice caps could completely melt. There could be a lot of flooding, So let me see if I can find something on the wobble theory or on this strange thing that's going on, because basically it's moving. It's moving exponentially. It's just getting out of hand, and it's acting funky. And we're wondering, is it going to flip? Okay. So the earth shakes, wobbles, and spins. It's like a ball, and it's got gravity. And so the scientists are measuring these. Now, the way that they can tell about the magnets is iron in the rocks have shown up in the layers of the rocks, showing patterns that it's shifted. The pole has shifted in the past. So I haven't read this article, but I'm just trying to find some graphics for you. It says the planet rotates on its axis every 23 hours and 56 minutes and 4 seconds. Okay, so they have to adjust for those 56 minutes and 4 seconds. It's not really 24 hours. They do that with different timetables. So even if you ignore that the Earth is far from stable, beneath us, enormous chunks of rocks are constantly grinding past each other to make valleys, pushing together, form mountains, dragging apart, creating rivers, oceans. The ground under us is forever shifting. That's the plate tectonics. That's the rock cycle. And also the water has a huge pressure on these earthquakes and these shifts, and also the melting of the magma to cause volcanic with the heating up and the melting of the rocks. So they've even found that this huge dam in China that they put up, this massive dam, caused a major earthquake. So man's activity on the environment is causing problems for humans with unintended consequences. We're trying to fix things. China's got a huge water supply problem of clean drinking water for its people. And so they're trying to work on that. They created this huge dam. You can look it up and Google it. I've already read about it. But I want to tell you that this is a red flag, okay? Something's happening with the earth. You need to prep SHTF just in case, because it is working dynamically. If the poles are melting, more fresh water is going to be left on the earth. each of these things are interacting. It's a dynamic process. Earthquakes are triggered by changes in water because of the weight of the water, regardless of if it's ice or whatever. But there's this wobble theory, if I can. So the world magnetic model that was released is is here. This is showing you. Okay, so there's two magnetics. There's one in Siberia, and there's one over here. And there's kind of like this push pull, undulating. And so the weather is partly tied into this, which is our ability to grow crops for food, to be sustainable on our Earth. And if these plates move, or their location from the sun, like it flips around, you're going to have the sun hitting the North and South Pole, and the North and South, which end is up? It's going to be upside down or sideways. So here is another model of the magnetic. You can't see this visibly. It's just like internet and things that go wirelessly. It's a pole. It's a magnetic pole. And there's also electromagnetic as well. And so these things are happening, but you're not really noticing it or feeling. This is what the scientists are measuring. And then they're sending out a warning bell. Hey, look, we've noticed these patterns before. Excuse my accent. Let's see if I can find the wobble theory here real quick. Are you seeing this? Okay, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. Let's see, maybe I'm just looking in the chat box for a second. It says, would China should go get you, like just mentioned? Wait a minute. The map reminds me of the lines you see when you sit and move in front of your picture monitor. Yeah, it's cool, isn't it? Okay, let me see if I can find the China thing. I think that's what you were asking. Earthquake triggered by dam. So here we've got a thing that says earthquakes triggered by dams. Okay, so let's take a look at this, or maybe not. Okay, so 7.9 magnitude in Sichuan, that's in China, I believe, in May 2008, killed an estimated 80,000 people. 80,000 people. So I'm not saying that the Earth shift is necessarily a natural phenomenon. We don't know why it's starting to shift at breakneck speed, but there are things that we know, we put two and two together, that triggered it. Now, why the dam, the Hoover Dam, is not causing an earthquake is beyond me. I don't really know what the tipping point is in the pressure and the type of soil and what's under where you build the land. A geologist would have to tell you that. I don't know. So there are scientists that have shown how the earthquakes do it. There's a whole documentary you can see on that. But these things are interconnected. During the Depression, there was a weather with dust storms, and they were triggered by over farming. Okay, so we don't know why this is happening in the world, on the earth. It's not just affecting. So they discovered their agricultural practices caused the dust storms that you read about in the Grapes of Wrath, and the Dust Bowl from the Depression, that caused partially the economy to collapse in the United States because they overfarmed. They didn't have, now when they farm, they rotate the crops. They learned a lesson from this, but so many people died because they didn't put trees to stop, and they were just draining the earth and the oil. And basically, it could have turned to desert, but they they adjusted the problem with scientists helping them to plant trees and stuff like that later on. But this thing is a warning sign. It's a red flag, the magnetic poles. And I just wanted to warn you that there might be some things coming up. The poles have shifted in the past. Here's another article on this from 2018, last year. What happens when the magnetic field flips? And it says we're not totally doomed by a field flip, so don't worry. We'll still go on. Well, the problem is what location you're in and how it affects your particular location. You know, it's like the earthquake in China really doesn't affect us that much over here, but 80,000 people died. Life still goes on, right? But it says it's a relatively predictable quirk of the Earth, and many times the Earth's magnetic poles have reversed. But how long have humans been on the Earth, and when did it flip? Did it flip when humans were on the Earth? First thing, are we all going to die? Yes. What? Wait, what? We are all going to die eventually. Ha 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 ha. Oh, they're playing a joke. So anyway, this is what it is, and it is what it is, and it's something to be aware of. And I just wanted to thank you so much for stopping by and listening. I'll put some more links below afterwards. And let's see what we're, okay. I'm hoping it has some changes. I'm a person who has luck, but off. Oh no, that would be good. That would be very good. Yes, to have a better change in luck with the, and Happy New Year to everybody. You know, it's the Chinese New Year and spring festivals are all going on now. The year of the boar. But anyway, I don't want to bore you anymore with science, so I'm going to hop off. Thanks for stopping by, and take care. Love you lots. Oops, I've got the wrong button. Okay.